talking away. I go, holy crap, it's 12:01. My problem, Blake, is I've got a joystick and it sits right in front of the clock on the lower right-hand corner of my computer. I got my joystick. But anyway, welcome to another political nooner, Ghost Town Politics, Blake McKenzie, and myself. I'm in Nanaimo, British Columbia. It's on Vancouver Island, in the middle of Vancouver Island. Blake's down in Victoria, the capital city, British Columbia. We got stories from Vancouver. We got stories from Victoria, British Columbia, where Blake is. My old alma mater, UVic, is in the news. And then we got a lot happening stateside, a little European news. So without further ado, I guess we'll launch the very first one. Okay, wow, this is a big story. It's happening. It's happening, folks. And let me maybe make this a little bigger. There we go.
Yeah, I can see that good.
Is that beauty? Breaking Epstein documents in Florida have been unsealed. Okay, it's open. Thanks to President Trump signing a new law demanding they be released. So this is all Trump saying, do it. This has backfired massively on the left. The files were unsealed by Donald Trump, appointed judge Rodney Smith. Imagine that. And there's a like on that. Well, what will the media, what will the left say now that Trump's did it? They will move on. Trump's not in the files. There's no there. So they unfortunately don't have a big story. And to put this in perspective, let's go here, Blake. Whoops. 3 judges blocked the Department of Justice from releasing Epstein grand jury documents. Richard Berman, appointed by Clinton, Paul Engelmeyer, appointed by Obama, and Robin Rosenberg, also appointed by Obama. Judge approved the DOJ to release Epstein grand jury docs. Rodney Smith, appointed by Trump. So the information, let's give him a like. Let's do the thing. The information is out. Blake, take it away. What does this mean? Is this the end of, are we going to see the Epstein story quietly go away? Or are we going to see charges coming? Or, if big name Democrats are implicated or something in this and it becomes obvious, I mean, what kind of thing are we going to experience?
I think we're going to experience mass distraction, especially if it starts to focus in on some big names. All of a sudden, the news will try to shift the narrative to something else.
Yeah.
That will be the attempt. Obviously, there's so many things moving pieces at once. Like we're going to talk about a number of other issues, I'm sure, later in the show.
Yeah.
But Epstein has become a flashpoint within MAGA, to make sure MAGA is satisfied and moving forward too. So I think it's the best thing to do. I think it's going to reveal a lot of what the Democrats didn't want. They thought they could get Trump to back down and make it look like it's all about him. But yeah. I think that, again, that was a Hail Mary on their part. They're losing on so many fronts right now. But yeah, expect mass distraction. And if it gets really hairy and the actual hardcore top brass of the establishment elite, don't be surprised there's some kind of false flag that comes out of this. Something's going to be a distraction.
Tell me about the false flag. Like, so you think a big name could come down to Clinton's or somebody like this, and then rather than letting that story gain any traction, direct the attention elsewhere by creating an event of some sort. So
it would have to be a spectacular event. Yep.
Yeah, the news goes elsewhere. Because it's kind of interesting that because, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all these are, and I see Fox as controlled opposition, because all these networks are all bought and paid for and controlled. I don't think much happens out of them. Like it's so easy for a story to lose any kind of traction, even though to our conservative ears, we'd go, man, this is nuts. Like this should be on front page news everywhere. Okay. Let's take a look at another story. First, I got to get my source for it. Okay, it looks like DigiGal's got something for us. DigiGal. Let's take a look at DigiGal. Go to my buck of toys. Okay, I think this is my DigiGal. Let's share the news. Okay, DigiGal. FBI Director Kash Patel says Biden's FBI is about to be fully exposed in court for hiding the truth about the January 6th pipe bomber. You're going to see we were able to collect the evidence to make this case. Journalists will be able to look at it and say, why didn't these people do this 4 or 5 years ago? And there he is. He's unmasked. Now, just very briefly, we'll get to the bottom of this. Jake Tapper breaking the story on this kid. Let's go here. Hold on. Wait, let me go. Here we go.
Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs.
Hold on, I missed the punchline. Here we go.
Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs is charged with transporting an explosive device.
All right. So a 30-year-old white man apparently has been arrested. And then let's hear Tash.
Oh, can't hear anything.
And was never brought back up again, even in the months following. It seems odd, and I mean, it seems like something that people would want answers to. Will there be a review process on how this was conducted differently? How you guys could do this, 4 years later, and in 8 or 9 months, actually come up with a suspect versus the prior administration having 4 years, a more immediate timeline, being able to go right into it, having the immediacy of that, or even the fact that they just didn't care, doesn't that say so much about the weaponization of justice in America today?
Absolutely, and I think you're going to see it on parallel tracks. What you're going to see is as this case presents itself in court, you're going to see where we were able to collect the evidence and make the case against this suspect. And then common sense journalism and investigators are going to be able to look at it and say, why did these people do X, Y, and Z 4 or 5 years ago? That's going to make itself self-apparent. But what we're doing at this FBI is also, we have replaced this entire leadership cadre. We have pushed out 1,000 agents into the field. There's a reason this FBI has 25,000 violent offenders arrested this year alone. That's twice as many as last year. There's a reason that this FBI is going to deliver President Trump the lowest murder rate in modern history by double digits. There is a reason this FBI is out there crushing fentanyl, destroying narco traffickers, and making sure the homeland is safe and preventing spies.
All right. So, Cash goes on a little bit there. But, you got to question. You got to wonder what the hell's going on. The FBI had this thing, they had all the phone records 4 years ago. So they had everything. Unfortunately for them, a Democrat-controlled FBI, this pipe bomber suspect did not fit the MAGA profile. In fact, he comes from a strong Democrat family, Democrat representation all over. I guess his parents were Democrat donors, and they're also involved with refugees as well. Adding the cherry on the cake, CNN in their infinite wisdom labeled the guy a white guy. So a 30-year-old white man, white male, and of course it's bullshit. It's not true at all. We know who the guy is. Yeah, he's a black guy. Nothing wrong with being a black guy. Some of my good friends are black guys. But Blake, what do you think of the FBI previously handling the case and Kash Patel's pronouncement that when this thing goes to court, it's all going to come up how the FBI purposely buried the details on this guy because he didn't fit the narrative. Go.
Well, I don't know if it wasn't about fitting the narrative. I'm still thinking that he was part of the operation that was done to discredit MAGA and turn it into an insurrection. I think he's part of the same group of the FBI that were infiltrating MAGA and guiding them that day. Yeah. I think it was all going to be part of the process. Somebody called them and pulled the pin on the whole explosive side of this, the pipe bombs, because they got the footage of the police just nonchalantly removing it. I mean, it wasn't like a bomb squad out there surrounding, blocking off the entire neighborhood. It was just done very quietly, and it was
they cleaned up the
they called it off, right? Because they didn't need to go that far. And so I think it was plan B as set up if plan A didn't get what they wanted. And that was if the MAGA protesters, a few of them didn't go into the building, then they would have to have done something else, like do an attack, make it look like they're attacking Congress people with bombs. Yeah. That's kind of was the next step to escalate the insurrection. But what was interesting is Cash, I was just going to say, when you looked at the evidence, when they said, where did you get the evidence from? Well, the evidence was already there. They said they didn't have to go anywhere to get the evidence on who this was. They just had to go through the existing files. Apparently there was 3,000 pieces of information, I understood, something like that, that they had collected as evidence on who the bomber was. And it was all there. They didn't have to go out and continue a brand new investigation to collect
Correct.
new evidence. It was all within their files.
Yeah.
So that just shows cover up. That is a cover up, folks. That is not anything else but a cover up. So I think hopefully the lid comes off. Hopefully they don't circle the wagons, because bureaucracies are famous for doing that to protect their own, even if they protect their baddies within their own. It's about reputation and trust, because if you want to build public trust into your department, in this case the FBI, if the FBI becomes untrustworthy, they still have to put on the perception that it's still a trustworthy organization that's in the best interests of the American people versus a rogue entity that's operating against America. So hopefully it's a delicate walk. Kash Patel always looks like he's a deer in headlights. I wish he would get somebody to help him with his camera presence, because always like he's like this at all times.
Yeah, but it's like Sammy Davis Jr. He may have a glass eye. I don't know what's going on with him.
Poor guy. It looks like he's probably got high blood pressure.
he's a crazy cat. But anyway, so what do you think is going to happen to Chris Wray? And well, we already know Comey's under the microscope. Do you think Chris Wray is going to be in any trouble?
Well, you know, I listened to a very interesting conversation this morning while I was getting ready, because I do when I having a shower, I'll have the podcast blasting in the background, and what they were talking about, that right now what Trump's doing, and that window is closing quickly. And so essentially, if you're going after, like, when you were going after the mob, when they started to break, it was the lower level guys that were willing to point the finger who got a break, right? Yeah. They're the ones that would get whatever they wanted. So hopefully between the Epstein files, between the FBI and their activities, both I think in Epstein files, also Jan 6, also the Russiagate and all that kind of crap that went against.
It was an onslaught, wasn't it?
It was an operation. It had all the signs of a professional operation, a hit job to destroy President Trump. And
now you're starting to talk RICO. That's a RICO.
Well, that's what they're got to look at this. That this was a criminal organization working within government that were operating like as a collusionary effort, much like mob bosses were. Once you start taking down the lower level capos, if you want to call it, within this operation, and simply those are the guys who will sing. You give them a break so that they point the fingers up. So Chris Wray, I think Comey's like a top general, but Chris Wray might be one of those guys that will sing like a bird to get off if they can put the pressure on. When he sees that the dug-in entrenched establishment is collapsing and they're losing all their ground, they're going to start singing like birds to save their asses. But that window, as they said now, I was listening this morning, is getting short, because essentially they're going to have enough people, and the rest of you, too bad, they're going to have your names, you're going to jail. So let's just see what happens. I think the whole thing is getting closer. You got the grand jury situation in Florida well underway. I think there's a lot of stuff that's going to blow up here, and that's right. Time is running short. If you want to sing, now it's your time to sing, because they're not going to take you down the road. You're going to jail. It won't matter.
What do you think? I mean, that's a great comment, Blake. I mean, the timeline on all this. So, there's a lot of investigation. I guess we could talk about a grand jury in a sec here. What do you want to hear, Blake? Would you like to hear some good news or bad news? I got good news and bad news. What do you want to hear first? Good or bad?
Well, let's start with the bad and end it with a high.
That's the
brings us
way
up.
I like Blake. I answer that myself all the time. All right, give me the bad medicine, and then I always like to add, end with a positive note. Whenever this happens. So let's start with some bad news here. Okay, I'm so sorry to announce this. Our justice system is broken, Blake. There's Tish. Grand jury does decline to re-indict New York Attorney General Letitia James on bank fraud charges. She said she was married to her dad. Everything is broken. Dem clients and daughter New York judge in Trump hush money trial raises $93 million off of the case. There's corruption. Daughter of Obama appointed judge blocking Trump's deportations works for NGO defending all this stuff.
Yeah.
The American people waiting for justice, just one Democrat to be held accountable for literally anything. I mean,
we got to remember, envision this like World War One.
Yeah.
Trump is moving the forces, but these guys have been entrenched for decades. Yeah. You're taking it one trench at a time. It's going to take a long time to get them all out. I would love to see them all lined up, going to jail tomorrow, but this took decades to develop, and it's going to take time to take these people out because they are dug in. Their judges are dug in. They're the whole justice system, especially within these blue state sanctuary areas, if you want to call them. They literally are. They're basically entrenched in. It's going to take time to break them up.
Yeah, I forget which state that was. I think I may have read it in the headline.
But it must have been New York because she's in New York or
it
DC.
Was New York. No, it wasn't. It was not New York. It was another state where this was. If anybody knows where Letitia James or what grand jury failed to indict her, it's actually from another state. Okay, let me get my newsbringer. Okay, this is Patriot Oasis is what I'm looking for. Let's get this. So I promised you I'd get some good news for you. Here's some good news, Blake.
Win for Texas.
Hold on. Let's go big. We're going to Texas. There's a Supreme Court justice says. Here we go.
The Supreme Court allows the Lone Star State to use the Trump-backed congressional map in its midterm elections. Governor Greg Abbott writing this: Texas is officially and legally more red. This is a victory for Texas voters, for common sense, and for the U.S. Constitution. They could get up to 5 seats in theory. Let's bring in Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Greg, did the Supreme Court make the right decision?
Oh, I think they did, Brian, because there was little credible evidence that Texas had actually redrawn their congressional map based on race, which obviously would be a civil rights violation. And the ruling is consistent with what the High Court said in 2019. We will not intervene in cases of political partisan gerrymandering, only in cases where, states have conjured up district boundaries for largely racial reasons that are discriminatory. And in fact, there was evidence that the previous map was racially motivated and that the new map corrected that constitutional defect. So, as you point out, Brian, this ruling has the potential to flip 5 Democrat-held seats in Texas to Republican next year, and it may actually clear the path for other states to do the same, blue states and red states, as long as race is not a factor.
All right, and the interesting thing, breaking Supreme Court upholds Texas redistrict map, allows Texas to use the map for the 2026 midterms. Oh, yeah, this is huge. We get 5 Republican seats coming in. The new map, and this is an extra cookie blessing for people, fires Representative Jasmine Crockett. Back she goes. I don't know whatever hole she crawled out of, but Jasmine Crockett with her beautiful manicured nails is going to be going bye-bye. And also, one of my favorite, Mr. Impeached Trump, what's his name? Green, the Reverend Al Green.
Oh, Al Green, Sharpton or Green?
No, Green. Green's
yeah.
his name. Yeah, he's also Texas. So him and Crockett, because they had the previous map distribution, the racially designated one.
Like the pipeline district that ran between San Antonio and Austin.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like on the whole line that just goes right into.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? It's just crazy. So great news. So the bad news, Letitia James walks, but probably more important where we're at because of the midterms coming up. is we're gaining 5 seats right out of that. And that counteracts what they did in California with the redistricting there. California and the blue states, the argument goes that they've already gerrymandered everything to the fullest extent. There's just nothing left to even gerrymander.
Yeah.
Every inch of ground has been claimed in that war by the blues. But the red states still have extra seats that can be gained by, in fact, gerrymandering. So this is a massive win. I'm so happy to see it. And of course, it was another rogue judge that put a stay to it and said, we're not having this. You can't redistrict. Went all the way to the Supreme Court, and we get the win there. So very happy to see that.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay.
So that makes sense over Virginia. Virginia, of course, is highly influenced by Washington, D.C. because its suburbs across the border are heavily run by Democrats. And of course, Richmond, Virginia is a hive of Democrat control as well. So I think, that would make sense as well.
Okay. And then, not to be left out, let's get my next headline, guy. This is Daisy Media. So, right away, Blake, Daisy Media, we're going to be heading to Canada for this guy. This is just crazy. America just seems to be going into liberty and strength to strength. The light is shining into every darkened corner. In Canada, we're shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine as a kind of a black ops cesspool of corruption. It just never ends. Canada is blowing past restrictions on free speech straight into what's known as compelled speech. Breaking, a pastor, Derek Reimer, is arrested in Canada after refusing a court-ordered apology. Do you know why you're arresting this man? He refused to apologize. Let's watch it. Get on.
Please? No, just the regular police. Okay. So you're under arrest for your breach of CSO. Can you come inside with us, please?
You're right here.
Okay. Sounds good. Are you able to drop that for me or pass it off to one of your friends? Can I finish it?
Oh, yeah, you can finish it. Yeah. You know why you're arresting this man for? He refused to apologize for his religious beliefs. Are you aware of that?
I am not aware of
He's protecting your children and your grandchildren.
The modern day Nazis.
Do you guys understand how absurd this is? This is so sad.
The feelings police.
If you guys really understood what you're doing, you probably wouldn't be doing it. This is not a prideful thing to do. A shameful.
All right. So the story there, Blake, is this guy's a pastor in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
And
I know the story.
Okay, well, go ahead, tell the kids.
No, go ahead, finish it. Sorry, I was just.
So anyway, so they're locking him up because he was guilty because he wouldn't allow the identification of a gender expression and he, her pronouns, she, him, that, they. He wouldn't play that game, kind of like what Jordan Peterson did. He was found guilty. This woman sued him, I guess, and then part of the settlement, not only did she win a big claim against him, I forget what the dollar figure is, it's substantial, but in addition to that, he was ordered to make an apology to her. And he says, I'm not apologizing. It's my belief as a Christian that all this gender stuff is sin, and therefore I can't sanction it. And if I sanction it, I'm part and parcel of that sin. So I can't do it through religious conviction. That and a nickel will buy you a cup of coffee in Canada.
Yeah.
Right. So he refused to do it. So he won't listen to the judgment. But to me, the judgment's stupid. How can you thought crime somebody? How can you put somebody in jail for upholding their conviction? I can't apologize for something that would be betraying the very foundation of my Christian belief, and whatever your religion may be, as the case may be.
Well, and it's a two-tiered justice system, because had this been a Sikh, had it been a Muslim, you wouldn't be hearing about this story. It would have just been, it would have vanished. It wouldn't have even happened. Yeah. But the point is, there's a full targeted approach right now by the government to go after Christians. It's been going on since the Liberals took power. This was the new direction that Trudeau went. And let's face it, the historical Liberals of Canada were allied to Catholics. They were very strong in the Catholic vote. They've completely have tossed away the Catholic vote. They are going full on progressive Marxists. That's the direction that young Trudeau Jr. decided to go the other way, dump his Catholic roots, dump all that, completely embracing the new progressive at that time in 2015, this woke cancel culture. Let's target people on their views and what they think versus what they actually physically do. In this case, the pastor actually, if there's a video, if I recall it, he goes into to stop using a public facility, a library in Calgary, where they were hosting a trans, what do they call it? It was like for kids. It was
like a gay reading in the library. Or whatever.
It was a library. Yeah, trans. Anyways, they were doing a thing in the public library, and he showed up there to complain about it.
Yeah.
And he was actually physically assaulted, thrown to the ground as well. Of course, the police did nothing to protect him on that side. And I think one of the crazy liberal moms decided to target him, and this is where it came out about the lawsuit, because it was public facility, but they basically physically threw him out because he was protesting against it being used in a public facility and what they were doing to children. Again, I think most people would agree with common sense. It's not really a place that young children should be involved, as we're seeing today. That, like in British Columbia, we have the BC Teachers Federation, which is completely radicalized, that is bringing in stuff to kindergarten kids at that age, propagandize them into this sort of ideology that in a lot of it's based on fantasy, but it's purely tied to Marxism. I 100% agree. It's just Marxism to split and divide people further. They know what they're doing. They're basically trying to tell you everything you see isn't real. We can only tell you what's real, and you need to agree with that. But this is that new era. This is that woke culture that's anchored deep now into Canada. It's now into our political. I mean, the Chinese control a chunk of our politicians. We know the culture, Mao's cultural revolutionary approach is being utilized here in Canada. It's tied to the WF. It's all about destroying the morale and rebuilding it to something else. And I think it's a great, like we talked about before, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, it's all tied to the Crown. The Crown is the problem. The Crown supports the WF. The Crown is about the power structure. The Crown represents power. And when power is losing its control because everything they're tied to financially is collapsing, the fiat currencies, we're going into that new era, the Great Reset. We're going into a reset where the currencies are collapsing and they want to reset it into a new. And my belief, where we're seeing the war, where this is all headed, is the battle is between the two forces. One is about freedom, liberty, independent currencies controlled by their national states, not run by a global cabal of central bankers who are trying to take us down the road to a carbon-based monetary system, which basically converts us into a slave class because, you will own nothing. You'll be happy because your carbon footprint is how they'll tax you and how they'll look after you and how they'll print new money. And I think that's the problem. But what that really is, in the underlying tone, these guys are trying to take us back to a feudal nobility type of system where the nobles, the neo-nobles, I'm calling them, control the world. That's where you will own nothing and be happy. You will be under these nobles. That's why they're trying to, in the areas like Canada, where they're trying to bring Indigenous rights over top of you. It's not because they want to give special privileges to Indigenous people. It's that they can set up a nobility class within Canada where you own nothing. Or you could do that in Australia under Aboriginal title laws, Aborigines. You could do that in New Zealand with the Maori. You can do that in pretty much anywhere where you can use an Indigenous population as the new nobility. And of course, England And Europe has a nobility class that still exists today. They still carry their titles. And that's the difference between America and the direction with MAGA and where Canada gets stuck with all this progressive crap. The progressive side that we're seeing, this insanity of locking people up for what they think, is all part to break away, to destroy that sense of individual freedom, individual rights, property rights, all of that's under attack by these neo-nobles. And those neo-nobles want to take us back to that time where we'll just be serfs on the land, pay them rent to be there to produce on the land. And that's where they're taking us, because the debts are being called on all of that fiat money that's been printed now for at least 5 decades and bankrupting these currencies. I think that's the direction they're going. And why this is all interconnected. Why are they doing these trans? Because trans people are numerically small, like a tiny number.
Now, hold on, we're a growing demographic.
Well, I mean, I think I look at it, the demographics more tied to like when punk rock got cool. You know, it just became a cool thing. It came counterculture. These kids are being taught it's countercultural, be opposite, when really they're being controlled and manipulated like a giant psyop to be part of that destruction, the moral destruction, the morale destruction, attacking what used to be the nuclear family, if you want to call it that, the established order that was before that we all agreed to, a social order, a melting pot, to no, we're all divided, we're all separate, we can be controlled opposition in that way by breaking us up into little pieces, and we can utilize these small pieces to target the bigger majority to make them become compliant. It's a psyop, right? I don't think anybody cares if somebody wants to be trans, if they're an adult, they want to make those changes, they want to be homosexual, they want to be that way as an adult, but get out of the kids' lives. This is about dividing families. It's about state knows best over top of parents. It's a division that's constantly we're seeing on all fronts. People can see it. They can feel it. There's a horrible darkness around it. But as you said earlier, there's that change we're seeing in America. America's flipped the other way. And you can actually, you could even put a marker. The death of Charlie Kirk created a spiritual awakening, right? I mean, it literally, it was like the jolt that was needed to wake some people up. And don't let social media and don't let the media try and make you go into a slumber and ignore all that. That was a pivotal point that we saw, that this was where the left, or I wouldn't even call it the left. I still don't think that was a lone actor. I believe there's something weird about that. I think the deep state may be part of it. They seem to be connected to all of these attempts. The shot on Trump's life, we still trying to get to the bottom of that. They're going to do everything they can to try and stop that. And they continue to do that. This is what I talk about. One trench at a time. You're going to have to take them out one by one by one by one. And hopefully Canada, will be one of the first to have that wave where they'll have no choice. I mean, I think America's breaking that, right? Trump's like, no, we're not going to do that on our border. And this is the kind of stuff. When a pastor goes to jail, you lefties in Canada, you're parading around going, this is a great thing. It's like, no, you're a minority. Your thinking is going into the ash heap of history. So you better be careful what you say, because this is the kind of thing that allows a foreign government like the United States to come in and say, well, we're going to punish you because you're against civil rights. Just like we're going to see about how what EU is going to take once Vance and Trump jump on about X and defending X.
Well, yeah, I got all that line queued up here, so we can go into that. And before we move on from this topic, Yukon Strong writes, Ireland just arrested Enoch Burke again. This guy's been in jail a lot. And he's in there because he refuses to use the pronoun they. A student demanded that. He spent 500 in jail so far since 2022. They've just arrested him again. Our Irish school teacher Enoch Burke arrested and brought to prison. So he's in Mountjoy prison, apparently, even as we speak. So again, Blake gave you the underlying causes of why they're doing it all, for the Great Reset, as they call it. and a lot of that deals with the controlling of free speech and the like. So I guess what I want to do here as I go through, I've got so many different headlines here queued up. Okay, let's do this one. This is coming in from Eric Daughtry. So let me go here and pull Eric up on the list of comments to share. Okay, stop that one. And okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, breaking in an infuriating move. Let's click on that. In an infuriating move, the EU just fined X platform 140 million, despite Vice President J.D. Vance warning them not to do that. It's outrageous. The EU has just angered both President 48, or well, 48 will be, they're saying Vance, and Elon Musk. Bad move, reverse it. Well, it's going to anger Trump too. You don't think for a minute J.D. Vance isn't going to talk to Trump about this. So we're going to look at some of the responses and some of the rationale behind it. So let's go here next. Breaking, Brussels declares war on free speech. This is how it's being seen on this side of the Atlantic. Breaking, X has been hit with that 120 million fine euros, European Commission refusing to bow to their censorship mandates under Digital Services Act. Is what they're calling it. Make no mistake. Canada. Yeah, make no mistake. This is not about safety. It's not about rules. It's not about regulation. It's a calculated move to criminalize free expression, punish dissent, intimidate a platform that refuses to silence its users. They couldn't control the narrative. They couldn't silence ordinary citizens. So now they weaponize financial punishment. This is political coercion disguised as policy. I love how he's pulling the blanket back on what this really is. Yep. Free speech is now under an open attack. If they can do this to Elon Musk and X, they'll do it to every platform, every publisher, and every citizen who refuses the approved worldview. And we're seeing they're locking them up. The world must pay attention. Freedom is being fined into submission. And we got a bit more here. Elon Musk goes absolutely to Secretary Marco Rubio. So this has garnered the attention of Secretary of State and the Vice President of the United States. The European Commission's 140 mil fine isn't just an attack on X, it's an attack on all American tech platforms and the American people by foreign governments. The days of censoring Americans online are over. And then we've got this one. Breaking, Americans soon may have a right to sue UK. So you wonder what the Americans are going to do? They're going to counterpunch. We're going to sue them right back. It's called the Granite Act. It would mean that U.S. citizens who are targeted by the EU, UK, like Elon, with fines can countersue in American courts. They would be awarded settlements from the billions European countries have invested in American banks. So that's how they get the money and force them to pay. They just take their money out of the U.S. system. So Blake, quite the war here. Your thoughts on this?
Oh boy, there are a lot of thoughts on this. So number one, the Digital Services Act. Isn't it interesting? The EU calls the same act that Canada called their act, and Trump and Vance basically shut down Canada's. Carney agreed to remove it completely on American services. He just put the hammer down on Canada and said, well, you don't remove this, we're going to put all these tariffs on you. And Canada would be literally would lose in that fight financially. So Carney actually pulled back on that, which is interesting because we're going through that as well in Canada, right? But Canada is right next door. So we have Bill C-9, which
America
is essentially
can leverage us, right?
Well, that's what's happening. Canada is as it's saying all along, Canada is the battleground that the EU is using, or the WEF. They're interchangeable, the same people. Let's call them for what they is. EU is the WEF, okay? That's who's running the show. The central bankers in Europe versus the bankers in the USA, who were aligned, but now Trump's elected. I think he's got the financial system in the U.S. nearly in agreement with him, not 100%, but nearly in agreement. But Canada is the staging ground where they have been trying to push this EU crap to the point where Canada's investing into the EU as a willing partner into a EU defense plan, which I think is going to be all part of the negotiations with Trump on trade with Canada. That's got to go. EU's a rogue entity now. It is a competitor, not a friendly competitor to the United States. They have been taken over by very bad people. And I think you're seeing this. Why they don't want X operating is because X is actually influencing change, because it's giving people the power in their own hands to speak, which means why did, and I'm not sure if you got this to pull up, but why did Keir Starmer cancel mayoralty races in major cities that were supposed to happen right away coming up in 2026 and essentially pushed it out to 2028? And because Reform in the UK would have won. And why is that happening? Because X is the power which is providing the people on the ground, the grassroots, the ability to talk to each other without being blocked. And that's why they're arresting people in the UK over what they're saying, because they're trying to send a message to those people that you are not having a voice. We're going to control the message, and you're not going to have a right to control how we want the outcomes in these elections. And I think Trump, to his credit, is also opening up the doors about the widespread corruption through voting tabulators and machines that have been brought into all of these countries to manipulate elections, is also part and parcel of this whole package. So the EU is trying to shut the door on all this. They don't want these parties who are grassroots oriented to fight back and win. That's what the X attack is. That's what Digital Services Act is. It's to silence people. Luckily, I think it's starting to break in Canada, because Bill C9, it looks like it's falling apart. Even within the Liberal ranks, are starting to break quietly in the behind that might not pass, because people are going, you're going too far. You're going to be arresting people and taking away their internet, their ways to bank, and everything just on what they think. So without trial, without due process, that you could have that stripped. That's where the EU wants to go with this, strip you away of everything. And again, I think this is all part of that Agenda 2030. I think they're just going forward with it. They think that they can do this, that Trump is somehow, they're going, okay, if we can get to the midterms, we can at least sandbag Trump from having any more influence, to the point where they'll just get them all tied up again. That's why the midterms is going to be critical for America to blast the Democrats out of there. MAGA needs to keep moving forward, because it's got to spread around the world. It's not just about making America great again. It's make the West great again. It's about the free West being free as the beacon of hope for around the world. Otherwise, despots will take charge, and we'll become under, as I said, the neo-noble structure.
What I love about our audience, it's somewhat indicative in a microcosm of some of the outrage, at least at least people on our side of the island. People are crossing that aisle. It's not a static entity of, I'm more conservative than liberal in my thinking, or what have you. What I'm able to discern is behind these words here as well, that there is a degree of outrage, of just distaste and detesting of what's going on in the world. We are seeing it in the Ukraine. The Ukraine is absolutely fascinating because of the corruption that's coming out there. It's starting to be exposed. All the money that's gone in from the Western government, again, those same Western governments Blake's talking about, they're the ones that have been throwing money in, and we've seen it turn into gold toilets for Zelensky and his cronies. So absolute corruption. We've got more corruption stories to uncover. And one of the big ones right now is happening in Minnesota with the Somali population. It's firmly or solidly in Trump sights. There's a lot of focus on it. And we're learning more and more about the corruption that is going on there. Okay, let me get the right person's quote. I've got it. Let's share the thing here. Wow. Breaking. Minnesota Somali fraud may reach $8 billion, not just $1 billion as first reported. So let's play the clip. And here's our friends at Fox giving the story. Let's go.
Fraud investigators are finding in Minnesota is growing by the day. Kelly Loeffler, who leads the Small Business Administration, says in the 2 days her agency has been investigating the state, they've uncovered at least $1 million in PPP fraud just 2 days in. Several of the whistleblowers in Minnesota have also told lawmakers they believe the total amount of fraud could total up to more than $8 billion. Governor Tim Walz, who is up for re-election, is under fire for all of this happening under his watch. But he says they have paused these programs. They've brought in outside auditors to get an idea of how far-reaching this fraud was. They're taking steps to keep it from happening again. And he's defending his management of the state while also taking shots at Republicans and the president.
All right, so there's Tim. Now we got more on
Minnesota
this.
ranks economically.
Let me go here. Let's share this instead. Let's take that out. Okay, bombshell. Ian Omar is done. The rats are scattering. Most of them are begging reporters to hear their stories. So people are wanting to talk. Whistleblowers now confirm her campaign funneled a massive amount of money to her husband's firm, while Somali-linked networks in Minneapolis ran one of the biggest COVID relief fraud schemes in history. Hundreds of millions stolen. She knew it. She benefited. She covered for him. This isn't community outreach. This is corruption on
tracking the web of.
Okay.
Well, now
hold on, folks, and I'll make it big and give you the full shot here. Here we go.
Investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme live in her district, including a restaurant owner who hosted events for her. He has since been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds. Well, now investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme.
Now, here we go again. Justin, Ian Omar is absolutely freaking out right now. Turns out the restaurant owner who threw that 2018 victory party is a Somali dude who's already been convicted. The walls are closing.
The whistleblower.
And let's see those walls close in a bit more.
Whistleblowers that I've spoken to are saying that the governor knew, and the governor and lieutenant governor and even Chris Schmitter, who was his chief of staff, came to them as staff and scolded them for pointing out fraud.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar told CNN this week she believes the fraud spiraled out of control because COVID programs were rolled out without sufficient guardrails. It's also worth noting the owner of the restaurant where Omar held her 2018 victory party is among those from the Somali community who have been convicted of profiting from the schemes. Harris?
Look, I don't know. I know this would be public, but I don't know how hard they'd make us work as journalists. But I want a FOIA for those 300-plus arrests that A.G. Ellison says that he made. I want to know the dates that those arrests, did they coincide with being caught or this coming to light? I want to know who they picked up in the scheme when you just heard a head of small business saying, Kelly Loeffler, there are more people to go out and get. I mean, this is unbelievable. Your last quick word.
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting, earlier this week when Governor Walz was asked why is it that he was leaving this up to the feds, why isn't the state doing more? Yeah. He said, we're working with the feds and that we're leading to these federal cases. He didn't answer that question repeatedly, though, of why it is that the state itself hasn't done more to go after these fraud cases.
All right, so quite interesting, Blake. So we're seeing this fraud. They can't contain it. The genie's out of the bottle. And much like the Ukraine, you know, the Ukrainian, that story, they couldn't defend themselves anymore. Were you aware that the FBI was also working on getting that team that went in? Apparently, there's a lot of FBI influence in the people that went into the Ukraine. So American agents were working that to uncover the fraud that was occurring there. So this is great news for our side. We knew the corruption's there. Corruption is everywhere. Canada is just one of the worst right now. It's run like a criminal organization. I mean, we live under it. We see it all the time. It just seems there's no will from any of the institutions that traditionally oversaw this jurisdiction of justice and corruption and bringing error into truth, and all those have been co-opted, it seems. And so our help seems to be coming from the United States of America again. Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you. It's like we're looking to America because they seem to be the only bastion, the only beacon of freedom and liberty where this light is coming into these dark corners. This Minnesota fraud situation, now estimated to be potentially getting up to around $8 billion of co-opted funding. And we talked about the guy last week who had a couple of days ago on Tuesday, he had taken money from the Crime Stoppers in Minnesota. It's just a cesspool of corruption. Thoughts?
It is racketeering. All these people should go under a RICO law because it is a racketeering. It is a criminal organization. It doesn't matter. You can hide behind a political party name. It doesn't matter. You can call it whatever you want. You're still a criminal organization if you're acting criminally, period. That's just basically how it works. We've seen this, and it is a global organization. And if you want to call it Spectre from the James Bond era, call it Spectre, or we call it the from the public arm of the WF. But this empowered group who somehow self-appointed to take over the world using corrupt means are in all aspects of our society. When he talked about George Soros and his organization appointing and funding all these runs at a very local level and the very state level, getting attorneys, state attorney generals being elected, because they do elect them there separately. We don't. We have all ours appointed here in Canada. But Canada, very similarly, except we're not exposing it. It gets exposed and nobody wants to cover it because our media, our regime media, is captured entirely, 100%. We don't even have a controlled opposition media, though the National Post might look like it's a bit opposition to that. But all of our opposition, all of our media is done through alternative means here now. And we've had billions and billions, hundreds of billions lost, vanished off the books from the last decade of the liberal rule, which is tied to the Democrats. They're all the same machine where this money has just vanished. And people bring it up, and there's just so much of it. The public can't even keep their eyes on it because it's everywhere. It's this master. Well, it's a kleptocracy. A gang of thieves have taken over our Western governments, and they need to be removed physically, folks. It's not going to be just an election. These people are going to need to be arrested, charged, convicted, and do time in jail. These are not political people that have been voted in honestly. Once the veil gets pulled out about the corruption in the U.S. over the voting machines, the tabulators, how all that went down, this should open up the doors in Canada. That's why Canada's in full panic, because they're doing the same thing here. They're doing the same thing in Europe. That whole Venezuela connection to the voting machines is real. It is for real. So there's this global tie. Trump is going at mega. Trump, the whole machine is going at them all.
Yeah, I got. By the way, going back to our pipe bomber, CNN reporting that the guy apparently, rumoredly, said that he did it because the 2020 election was stolen. This is the Democrat, the black kid from Democrat kid. He's going, oh yeah, the election was stolen. I'm such a patriot, MAGA. Obviously that's not going to hold water. That'll fall apart. But it's another sign of desperation for these morons. Blake, great news coming out from our beloved President Donald John Trump, talking about USMC. They are saying, we're not talking United States Marine Corps. We're talking the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade deal.
Yeah.
Trump says that's going to be reevaluated. He's hinting strongly that it's going to be done away with. And then the screws are going to tighten even more on Canada, because Canada's flirting with Europe the way we are is not making Trump happy in any way, shape, or form.
Well, especially with this X thing right now.
That makes Trump want to tie the screws a little harder on Canada. what do you predict? Get the crystal ball, whatever you want to use, figuratively. We're Christians, so we don't believe it. But anyway, but your little crystal ball. And what do you think about this? What do you think? Do you think he's going to renegotiate it, end USMC as we know it, and do something different?
Well, the agreement, it's kind of an oddball agreement. To understand it, it doesn't expire until 2035. So just so everybody's aware of that. So, but it's up for renegotiation every year starting in 2026.
Right.
If there's no agreement, then essentially what happens, it rolls over another year and goes on year until somebody says, I'm out, or they make a new agreement. So essentially it goes under the same rules until that. So Trump's words says he is basically going to let it expire, which means it just rolls over for another year. So that, I'm not sure the tactic. I hope he says, actually, he only has to give under the agreement 6 months notice that they're out completely. The agreement is null and void. So
Trump's been known to leave things. He goes, we're out. We're not doing this anymore. The World Health Organization, we're out. We're not doing it.
Yeah. My guess is that the liberals are playing both sides of the fence. They're trying to drag it out as long as they can because they're thinking, well, let's see what happens in the midterms. Because the U.S. midterms, if there's a faint hope, they're thinking, oh, the Dems can take control of both houses. Then they're going to be able to slow down Trump, lock him up in court, and the tariffs will be removed because, let's face it, the people on the WF side who want, bring in their trillion-dollar asset managers making money out of factories in China and Indonesia and other parts of the world for cheap at the expense of American workers. That's essentially what the battleground is on those guys. So they see it as, oh, we'll just wait it out. Let's see what happens in 2026. But now Trump's, I know he's putting the urgency up because he doesn't want to take any risks of the midterms. He's going to give them 6 months notice. And I'm going to tell you right now, this meeting that's going on right now, they're all meeting. They're going to try and set a deal. Canada, if it has a brain, would just settle once and for all and say, okay, we're going to get rid of, this is all about market monopolies in Canada. So I'm reading that. That's where the entrenchment is in Canada. When it got these supply management controls in Canada, they've always not been allowing the Americans to compete in America. So America's saying, Trump's saying, get rid of those and we'll free trade both ways. That's all he's saying. It's just we played the video of Senator Kennedy giving out the actual answer to Canada. Canada, all you have to do is play fair. Free trade both ways. No more tariffs. No more controls of your market. So we get to compete on both sides. So I think...
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think Carney is trying to deflect. He's swinging that check in front of Trump's face saying $2 trillion in Canadian pension money is tied up with half of it right now in U.S. investments. He's waving that in front of him to try and maintain those monopolies because the Canadian elite, and that we talk about the Laurentian elite, love their monopoly that keeps their power, keeps their control, keeps them wealthy. But if this breaks, Canada is going to be a different world. I mean, Canada could be one of the best nations on earth in partnership with the U.S., if not joining the U.S., but even just in a philosophical equal in when it comes to free trade and opening it wide open to all people, same rights and freedoms that the Americans enjoy would be on our side of the border. Canada could be unleashed. It would be amazing.
I think I think you and I are both in agreement that Canada is not calling its own shots, that China is influencing us. We're listening to them. And the EU, WEF, same thing as you point out.
I think Trump has sandbagged them, though. I think he's sandbagged China out. I think he's drawing the line. This is why Carney's desperate now. And the EU is going to be told, back the hell off. Get out of Canada. Get out of North America. Yeah. We're not going to allow. They're sending a message in Venezuela. They're sending a message to South America and to Brazil as well. The EU and the WF and China, which is that alliance for that new world order, that you'll own nothing and be happy. The Chinese social credit system is what they want to bring in. I think Trump is saying, you're out. We're sandbagged them. I think China's going to back off. They have no choice.
Well, China's already, we on Tuesday, we were talking the last show we did, watch the last one if you haven't seen it. And we talked about Venezuela. Venezuela is now under a lot of pressure from the U.S. administration. And so China's already said, we're not going to interfere. Russia said they're not going to interfere. Very interesting. So there's no hope. Venezuela's being isolated. I think the same thing's going to happen to Canada because it's fortress North America that Trump wants, control of Greenland, control of Panama, the equator, and control of Mexico and Canada. So this fortress North America can be created to fight against growing empires because the disparity in power has come down a lot. China has really put a lot of money in, and we had this horrible Biden administration slowing us down. So while we were retarding ourselves, the Chinese weren't slowing down for anything or stopping for anything. No green policies underway in China. It's produce, get that war machine up.
Well, we've got a lot to watch right now, and all you have to watch is how the geopolitical change in monetary system is already happening. The difference is it's happening all at once. It's not like one country is in free fall and collapse. It's not like the Weimar Republic, in the 1920s, full collapse, paper money's worthless, or Zimbabwe in the 1970s and 80s, and they've been in a full free fall since. Or Argentina has turned it around. They were in the same thing of hyperinflation and collapse. This is a worldwide reset. It's the reset is the question. The WF has their reset ideas. America under MAGA has their reset ideas. China, India, Russia, Brazil under BRICS have their idea. People are moving, and I'm talking countries, people on the ground, grassroots, are starting to vote with their feet by buying things. Look at the price of metals right now. Watch silver. It's going through the roof. The price of gold. All of that's going up. That is a sign of a world economic order in crisis because people are shifting their wealth into metals again. Bitcoin and all that stuff might have a future, but it's not tangible. It's not real. It's electronic. It's made out of video game currency, essentially. But the fact is, in this case, people are moving back to metals. You need metals for industrial work as well. Silver's out a shortage right now. People are buying up. Who's buying it all up? Quietly, it's happening all around the world. Major national governments are buying it up. This is the hedge to protect your country against economic collapse and to have, because countries will no longer be trading in fiat currencies. And that's what Trump's up against. That's the big battleground because the central bankers want to convert from this debt-based economy to a carbon-based economy. And Trump's saying no way, but Russia is saying no way. China plays both sides of the fence. Watch China. They're smart. They're not. Risk. Oh, it is like risk. Everybody's moving their pieces. But Europe still wants to think it's Rome on the world. It wants to control it all. Yeah. And again, it's this establishment order of nobles that have never lost power in Europe. They're always there. The republic, you will give you a republic to make it look like you have power, but really behind the scenes, it's still the nobles. It's still the old order in Europe in behind, and they want to drag us all back to that. And you will own nothing and be happy. And of course, the Chinese communists would love that too, because they operate that way, except it's the entire state is the nobles, and who runs the state, and everybody else, you're just serfs working for them.
They're an oligarchy.
And then they can control your behavior and how you spend. So there's so much happening at once. But I just implore people, watch the price of metals and how it's being manipulated right now. It's going like this, but it just keeps going up and up and up. And the currency is how you're going to base how your country is doing. If Trump can stabilize it, you watch. I think he's going to say something about the new gold standard being brought back, because they've been quietly acquiring gold, just like China, acquiring silver. They're And so is Russia. Everybody's doing it. And they're doing that to hedge, to prepare for a big change. If you could see $100,000 gold being pegged so that your currency gets pegged to gold versus pegged to debt-based derivatives, right? Oh, how much debt can we create to print money, right? And then it's IOUs, because let's face it, you look at your U.S. currency right now, it says for all debts. Right? That's what it says right on it. It doesn't even say a US dollar, folks. Read it. It says a Federal Reserve note. It is an IOU. It doesn't have anything attached to it. So all the paper is being called around the world. You got countries holding trillions like Japan of US Federal Reserve notes, and they're stuck with them, and they're trying to get out of it too. Everybody's trying to get out of it because they know it's a system that's collapsing. So all of this is all part of this new geopolitical world order. The Great Reset, that means a financial reset because of that collapsing monetary system.
Yeah, I think if Carney had his way, he would love to truly unite with Europe, and that's his dream, his heart's there.
Yeah, he's
not. He's not going to be allowed to. Trump's got control. Ladies and gentlemen, we've hit that 107 mark on the clock. I want to thank, as always, Blake McKenzie for sharing with us. And thanks, everybody, for watching. We do appreciate our viewers. And make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And we are going to be back on Tuesday with another show. And later today, I do my private Patreon. I have a Patreon. You ever wanted to do a Patreon over on, can you do a Patreon on Facebook or anything? You got a big following over there. Like, you're big.
I've never done anything like that before. Facebook's kind of a weird animal, connecting the live videos. It doesn't work well with YouTube at the same time, but we've tried it a couple times in the past just to chat with like history authors and stuff like that. But no, I've never done that. Not very experienced on the outside of you introducing me to jump on here to be on video.
Yeah. All right, Blake. Well, we sure love you. And thank you, as always, for being here. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye for now.